That's right, baby. We are back. Technical Knockout, the MMA podcast. And today, we talking about none other than Umar Nurmagomedov, a.k.a. No Hard Anthony's little brother, a.k.a. Omar Coming. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. So we are talking today about Umar Nurmagomedov versus Merab Dvalishvilli. I've been wanting to make this video for a bit now, and I'm happy to say I have finally put it together. Now, Umar is a minus 340 favorite against Merab as a challenger. It is very rare that we see the challenger be such a favorite over the champion. Only few examples I can think of would be Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira. There's a couple other examples in there. I mean, Michael Bisping versus GSP, I suppose, would probably be another one. Yeah, I mean, it's rare that we see a champion be the underdog, and such a hefty underdog at that. And especially when the champion is very proven, like Merab is. But I think that just speaks to the respect that the game has for Umar, for his style, and for how he matches up with Merab, which in my opinion is very well. And I'm going to tell you why. So first off, we're going to break this down to a few different segments. One is the wrestling on both sides, the grappling on both sides, that kind of ties in with that. The other one is the striking, in particular the kicks. And the other one being the cardio factor, because, anytime you talk about Merab Dvalishvilli fight, you have to mention his cardio and how that may affect his opponents. So, let's start off with the wrestling and grappling, where this fight will likely be mostly highly contested, considering that Merab's, path to victory in every fight is take the guy down over and over and over until they're so exhausted they can't even keep their hands up. And Umar Nurmagomedov has the last name that he has, and the camp that he comes from, and the country that he comes from is highly known for their wrestling and their chain wrestling in particular. I think it's the most intriguing part of the matchup for sure. And in my opinion, I think this is going to be the first time that both guys really get their wrestling and grappling tested defensively. So for Umar, there hasn't been a lot of people to attempt takedowns on him, considering, again, his last name. Brian Kelleher attempted one and got, swept, or not swept, but reversed against the cage and eventually got submitted there in the first round. Corey Sandhagen attempted a couple of takedowns. I think mostly just keep Umar honest in their fight. Didn't seem like he committed to them too heavily. But other than that, not many people, I don't think anybody really has tried to take down Umar. So that's going to be an interesting facet of the fight, is Merab's takedown attempts on Umar Nurmagomedov. Now, every time that somebody has attempted a takedown on Umar, he has stuffed it or reversed it. His grappling is amazing. He has really, really good positional control, and just in general seems to be super aware of where he is and where his opponent is and their space and their balance at all phases of the fight on the ground. That's the kind of control and wherewithal that can only come with decades of grappling experience, and that's the kind of stuff that you get when you grow up wrestling in the mountains in Dagestan. For Merab, his takedowns are largely I don't want to say fluff or filler, but he is so fine with shooting 10 takedowns to get one. He's so okay with that. He loves that. He loves to just make you work. The biggest thing for Merab is to keep the activity level high in every one of his fights. That's his biggest thing. The exception being the Sean O'Malley fight, where he fought a brilliant game plan, staying all the way in or staying all the way out. Very much reminiscent for me of Frankie Edgar versus Yair Rodriguez, only taking the risks when he has to enter and not doing it, recklessly. But in the past, especially when he's fighting somebody around his size, which Umar is going to be a little bit closer to his size than O'Malley was, Merab is relentless with his pressure and relentless with his takedown attempts. Now, where it gets really interesting to me, in my opinion, is Umar's offensive wrestling versus Merab's. We are expectant of Merab to shoot for takedowns. That's really going to be his path to victory in this fight, honestly, is if he can drown out Nurmagomedov's cardio game with his takedown attempts. If he can use those takedown attempts to open up Merab's if Merab can use the takedown attempts to open up his striking, that's where he'll really find success in this matchup. But yeah, everybody knows that he wants to take down Umar. He wants to take down everybody he fights. Now that being said, when people try to take down Merab, they find good success there. There's been a few guys who have tried to take down Merab and have successfully done so, and Merab has lost several minutes, several rounds due to his opponent's offensive wrestling. Particularly against Ricky Simon, who I think that was, if not Merab's debut, it was like his second fight. And same for Simon. And just an amazing fight. I highly recommend you guys watch that fight if you haven't seen it already. Merab versus Ricky Simon. But Simon was able to take down Merab at several points in the fight, and we even saw Merab look tired at one point, which is something that we've never seen before or since. Now, again, that was years ago. That was a younger Merab. It's a guy who's not as polished as he is today. But again, that's the last time somebody really tried to offensively wrestle against Merab, and they were able to do so with success and drain his gas tank a little bit. So everybody knows that defensive wrestling is exhausting. Merab knows it better than anybody because he's the one that employs that on his opponents every fight. Another example would be against Henry Cejudo, who was able to take down Merab in their first fight, or in their first round of their fight, I should say, before getting absolutely dog-walked for the rest of the fight. And Cody Stamann as well was able to rack up some minutes of control and takedowns against Merab. And that fight is really close, the Stamann versus Merab fight. I do believe Merab wins, but Stamann put out a hell of a performance for himself and had a great showing. I'm going to link up a compilation I made of Merab defending and being taken down by Stamann and Simon, which you'll see now. The second half of of this equation, obviously, is Umar Nurmagomedov, and Umar Nurmagomedov is a phenomenal grappler, like we've said. Everybody that he's tried to take down, he has. Every one of his fights, he's taken down his opponent. The only example not of that not happening is against Hani Barcelos, who he knocked out in the first round, so he didn't really have the opportunity to go to that ground game. Now, Umar's striking, in my opinion, is better than his grappling. His grappling is phenomenal, don't get me wrong, but his striking ends, maybe it's not better, like skill for skill, but it's just as good, and they play off of each other very well, his striking and his grappling game. And in particular, the biggest tool for Umar in this fight and in most of his fights is his kicks. Now, Umar has incredibly dexterous hips, incredibly dexterous legs. He throws up front leg question mark kicks often. He'll throw leg kicks from the outside and slide away before the guy can even react to them. He's very, very fast and very tricky with those kicks. Merab has never defended kicks very well, particularly leg kicks. In general, Merab will let you kick his leg so that he can find his takedown. But if Umar can take advantage of that, if he can just take those kind of free leg kicks that Merab offers to people, and Merab goes for the takedown and gets swept or reversed like how Umar has done to everybody who's attempted a takedown on him, where does that leave Merab? There's not much more space there for him. So I think there's a great chance that we see Umar kick the legs of Merab, kick the body of Merab, kick high to raise his hands and then shoot on him, or kick the legs until Merab shoots on him and reverse the position and end up in top for the rest of the round. Merab, when he does get guys down, off the leg kicks or just in general off his takedowns, he's not the best at keeping them there. Like I said, he's very happy to shoot 10 times and get one takedown. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to get the takedown on the 10th one. You know what I mean? He could get it on the second or third one and then still shoot 10 more times after that. Because Merab is so focused on exhausting his opponent, he doesn't care if you get up from his takedowns. If anything, he might want you to get up from your takedowns. This is a common move in folk style wrestling, in American, collegiate or high school wrestling, I should say, where you take the guy down, you just back up, disengage. You let him get back up. You get 2 points for the takedown. They get 1 point for getting up. So you're still up if you let them up. And then you take him down again. And it's just disheartening. It's exhausting. And that's only in, 3 2-minute periods. So against Merab, who's doing this for 15, 25 minutes. I'm looking at you, Piotr Jan. 25 minutes of having to get up from the takedown just to get taken back down. It's really disheartening. It's really exhausting. Now, we haven't seen Umar have to deal with that kind of pressure before. Again, there's really nobody that can put that kind of pressure on people except for Merab. So that aspect of the fight I'm very interested in seeing. But I think there's a good chance that the attempts of takedowns that Merab is going to throw at Umar are going to end up with Merab on his back. End up with Merab getting reversed and being on bottom position. We've seen Merab get controlled from the half guard by Ricky Simone, as we just saw in that clip. And Umar, and any of the Nurmagomedov's half guard is incredible. That's their favorite position. They work very well from that position. The other position that they work very well on is the one that we see Merab go to get up from Stayman's grappling attacks in that clip that I just showed. And that is kind of using the cage to get up, so to speak. Now, the Nurmagomedovs, the Chimaevs, the Makhachevs, this Chechnyan, Dagestani wall-riding style of wrestling, they want you to try to get up using the cage. Please try to get up using the cage, because then they're just going to sink that leg on one side, grab your wrist on the other side, and ride you alongside the cage, and it's not going to be easy to get up. And if you do get up, they're going to put you right back down. And if you don't get up, they're going to punch on you and eventually find your neck or a face crank or some nasty, submission from that position that is you just don't want to be there. So if Merab can't get the takedown, if he does get taken down, if he gets the takedown but gets reversed and has to use the fence to get back up, these are all positions that Umar is stellar in. And I'd be very surprised if the volume of Merab is able to is able to weather down those systems of Umar until the fourth or fifth round. If Merab finds success in this fight, I do feel like it's going to be later in the round or later in the fight. And that being said, Merab has never been a finisher. He's never been a submission threat. He's never even really been a knockout threat unless the guy is utterly exhausted like Marlon Moraes was. More often than not, he's somebody who wants to win rounds of the fight, win minutes of the fight, wear down his opponent, and kind of rack up as the fight goes on. If he cannot find success early, and he finds himself in a position where he is down in the later rounds, and he's finding success then, we might see Merab get very desperate, trying to go for a finish on Umar. And unless Umar is entirely gassed out, which I don't expect him to be, then it's going to be too little too late. Another example of the wrestling that I think is going to be really interesting is that Merab has been caught in front chokes before, and he kind of tends to leave his head out in grappling exchanges. He can get wrapped up in a choke pretty quickly, or at least a front headlock sequence that Umar can, circle around the back and take his 2 points, or, you know what I mean? I mean, that's wrestling terminology, but in general, get to a takedown position off of an attempted takedown from Merab, if Merab is not, if Merab is careless with his entry. We've seen Merab get threatened by a choke versus Ricky Simon. I mean, he got finished essentially from that guillotine. Cody Stamann also attempted a guillotine on him that Merab was able to get out of and get top position on. Marlon Moraes as well. Now those guys, Stamann, Simon, Moraes, they are nowhere near the level of grappler that Umar is, and they're nowhere near the level of submission threat that Umar is. Now, Simon is actually a really good grappler and a good submission threat, but still I feel like Umar is still a league ahead of him. If Umar can get to those front headlock positions, he has a pretty wicked guillotine. We've seen him wrap it up before, but more often than not, he's happy to circle around, take the back, and work that wall riding position / quarter mount, Dagestani handcuff style. And, I feel like the more that I talk about this, the harder it is for me to picture Merab winning this fight. I think it would have to be Merab somehow hurting him on the feet or wearing down Umar attempt after attempt until he's essentially ground into the dirt. The thing is that, like I said, Merab is not a finisher, so Umar really only needs to win 3 rounds of this fight. And if he can use the leg kicks, like I said, open up his striking, use the leg kicks to set up Merab's takedowns, that Merab is going to go for a takedown, get reversed, and Umar is going to end up on top, because like we said, Merab is not great at holding guys down. He's better at, taking them down, letting them get up, and taking them down again. If he goes for one of these lazy takedown attempts or doesn't have the control, Umar can get to the top position and ride out the rest of the round that way and win that round. It's very hard for me to picture Umar losing this fight, but this is MMA, man. Anything could happen. And that's why we fucking love this sport, you know what I mean? But that being said, I do believe Umar is going to win at least 3 rounds of this fight. He may even be able to find a submission or a knockout opportunity in those middle rounds. I don't see it happening in the first. I definitely don't see it happening in the 5th. I think Merab will be the fresher fighter in the 5th round. But in that 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, if Umar is really starting to frustrate Merab, if he's starting to put him in some of those horrible positions that we've talked about against the fence or the half guard or just on his back, I think we can see Umar get a finish in this fight in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. That's about it. Umar coming, and I believe he's going to get that belt from Merab in January, in a week or so, I should say. And I think he's going to defend the belt many times. I expect Umar to be a champion for a long time. I expect Islam to be the champion for a long time. I believe that these guys are going to lose by getting aged out, not by meeting somebody who's better than them. I'd love to be proven wrong. You know, the sport is awesome that way, that we can see somebody rise to the occasion. And it's crazy to talk about a champion rising to the occasion, but that's what the hand that we're dealt right now. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate y'all, and I hope you guys have a lovely day. Peace out, and enjoy the fights next week, man. They're going to be fucking awesome. I can't wait. I'm so excited for it. I could talk about Islam and Sarukian, but I'll save that for the preview pod. Thank you so much, y'all. Peace out.